We break down the Chicago Bears' loss to the Detroit Lions next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. If you're watching out there on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And also, wherever you get your podcast, make sure to download and get the Unbearable Sports Podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. Now, we're going to be breaking down this unfortunate loss to the lowly Detroit Lions. Another game we should have won. It feels like we should have won, but we didn't. And funny story before we even get into this game, I actually did not watch the game live because I live in Wisconsin. I don't get this game. And I was also up north. For those that don't know, very far up north in Wisconsin. And as we're traveling down, I turned off all my notifications. I made sure not to even look at fantasy football, betting, anything like that. And I was able to make it home. And I saw my dad, who actually was dropping off our dog, and he looked a little bummed. And I'm like, crap, the Bears must have lost this game. And what do you know? Bears end up losing this game. If you guys have, I don't know if anyone else has had to do that when you have to shut off all the notifications. It's so hard. I made it kind of through, but unfortunately, we ended up losing. But ladies and gents, we have to break down this game. We have to break down that now the Bears have the 6th pick in the draft, right? Let's get some claps up in here, right? Even though that we lost, let's celebrate that we at least get the 6th pick in the draft right now. As of right now, there's still a lot more games to be played. Obviously, we want to win. Obviously, we should have won. But if you want to look on the optimistic side, 6th pick is really freaking good for a team that looks great. And I'm excited to break this down, minus the defense. But actually, speaking of defense, I'm going to give you my top 10 takeaways, and let's go with number 1. Normally, I start with the offense. But for those that watch this show, those that are Unbearable Sports fans, you know I'm drinking out of my Wisconsin football cup because my number 1 takeaway, first takeaway is Jack frickin' Sanborn. Let's go, guys. Jack Sanborn, 12 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 defensive stops, 1 interception that should have been, and only allowed 25 yards in coverage. That's not great, but just want to at least throw it out there. What I love about this is Jack Sanborn showed that you give him a chance and he's going to do something great. Now, not saying he's Roquan Smith, but he played very well out there. We saw when he got his sack, that was against Penei Sewell. That was against a good NFL offensive lineman, and he breaks past him. We have not seen many players do that. Now, one of the things that I really loved about what Jack Sanborn did out there is he gives us a different dimension at the linebacker position than what we've had with Nicholas Morrow and even Roquan Smith. There was one play in particular that when I was watching it, he goes straight into the lineman, bounces the lineman off, and then someone else is able to get the tackle. He's not getting charted for that tackle, even though he's got 12 freaking tackles. He ended up blowing up an offensive lineman and making that play happen. So to me, I liked what I saw. He's still a liability in coverage, or not great in coverage, but still it's awesome to see some great performance out of a undrafted rookie free agent. Now, yet again, stack the games. And what I love is he kind of fends off from Matt Adams another week, right? We talked about it that he didn't look great the week before, but now since Jack Sanborn played a little bit better, it's nice to see him play well for this team. And J-Rock in the comments says, Bears need better draft position to get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. J-Rock's right? Have you seen Will Anderson play? That is a franchise changer. That is a cornerstone pass rusher that we could get that will change this defense. So I agree with J-Rock. Now, yes, the loss sucks. It's terrible. But yeah, we're going to be going through this offense, and this is another week where the man that makes this offense tick, Justin Fields, look great, and the defense still a tick behind. But that's where a Will Anderson, you kidding me? That would be amazing. That would be absolutely incredible if the Bears could get some of these top tier defensive talented players inside of this NFL draft. But got to give love to my boy Jack Sanborn out there. I had to bring down the Wisconsin Cup as well. It's great. And I think for those that listen to the show, I believe my YouTube thumbnail that I created is Bears lose, offense rules, Jack Sanborn equals God. So for those that know the show, they'll love that. So, but let's move on to the other takeaways. Let's go back to the offense because the defense will talk a little bit later on in the show. But Jack Sanborn, just got to give him a shout out there, and should have been an interception because also before we even get through that, officiating was bad. And I hate saying that. I don't like blaming the officials, but Sanborn had that interception. And what? Someone just smacked a guy like in the neck. That's not hands to the face. That's hands to the neck. Completely different rule. Ticky tack. But there was a lot of bad calls out there today. But let's go over to my other takeaways. I have 6 offensive takeaways because, as always, I'd rather talk about the offense than the defense. So technically my first takeaway, my first offensive takeaway is a quote from PFF. Now, PFF, if you follow PFF, if you like what PFF has to say, they are critical of Fields, right? They're critical of him with his passing production. But what I loved, they usually do right after the game, they kind of do a little details like first glance. I always like to look at that just to see what they have to say. But my favorite quote was, Fields continued to look like one of the best best quarterbacks in the NFL. The best quarterbacks, right? This is what they're talking about. They're very strict. PFF is super, super strict on passing the football. And that's why I wanted to grab that quote. Fields continues to look like one of the best quarterbacks, right? This is the purpose of the season. This is what we've talked about. So for anybody that might be watching this going like, why are we optimistic? Because Fields looked awesome, right? Fields continues to play great. When you look at this offensive production, we have 150 passing yards, not great, but 258 rushing yards, 147 from Fields. He still continues to get out of the sack. He continues to put the ball in decent positions, and he continues to make this roster look a lot better than what I believe it is. I think that Justin Fields is the guy and just continues to show it, right? And now national media is going to keep on this bandwagon, keep on showing what he's capable of, keep on ringing the bell, keep on sounding the horn, whatever you want to say. He continues to be the guy, and I absolutely love it. So Fields, that's my big takeaway besides Jack Sanborn is Fields continues to look better and better and better. Now, yes, I would have loved to see him go for over 200 yards, but that leads me to my next takeaway. My third takeaway, second offensive. We are a run first no matter what type of team. Here is the Detroit Lions, not a good passing offense. I was expecting them to try and uncork it, throw it to Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, try and get it to our wide receivers a little bit more. But unfortunately, we ended up just kind of running it a lot more than expected. So Justin Fields, like we said, 13 carries, Khalil Herbert, 10, David Montgomery, 9. And I think that kind of shows we are a little bit more run first. Now, yet again, Justin Fields, a lot of those carries were passing plays that he ended up running out, but definitely it seems like it's all about running the football. This offense is built on running. When we needed to try and get a score, it was all about running the football. So it just further validates run first, pass is kind of secondary. And even when he's back, it seems he's more comfortable to say, you know what, I'm going to run this ball. So you love to see it because it does work. Another 30-point game. Now, let's go to my next takeaway. Now, this, I believe, was the most interesting takeaway of the whole thing, right? The most important takeaway was that EQ and Dante Pettis are still freaking number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. And we thought that Chase Claypool was going to get a little bit more snaps. Chase Claypool, 19 snaps, only 7 routes run, only 2 targets. But also, I want to kind of key thing, Byron Pringle. Byron Pringle was active today and had more snaps than Chase Claypool. Byron Pringle, 20 snaps, 11 routes ran, and 2 targets. So similar targets, but also similar snaps. It's just something to kind of key out there that Byron Pringle and Chase Claypool, those should be your number 2 and number 3. But you can definitely tell because EQ, because Dante Pettis know this offense a lot better than they do, they're the ones that are getting snaps. I just wanted to kind of call that out because it's a little interesting out there. So we have a little few Don Burr, the infamous Detroit Lions fan out here. Winning more is important than draft position. That's a loser's mentality. Yeah, fair point. And J Rock saying, not worried about beating the Lions as much as I am about draft position. I agree with J Rock here, right? I think that I think that honestly that this Bears team, it's about Justin Fields, right? And Justin Fields played better. And also we have a lot of cap space. And if we can get a great draft pick and we can trade down too, whew, that's going to be unbelievable. That's what I'm excited about. That's what I got to say about that. But let's go to number 4, the fourth offensive takeaway. And now I said I wasn't going to bring it up, but I forgot that it was my fourth takeaway. Penalties killed this offense. It really did, right? What stops this offense? Is it a person spying Justin Fields? No, it's penalties. We saw the first drive of the game. We went down. This offense is cooking. This offense is doing great. Then we get a holding call on Braxton Jones, and then all of a sudden, this offense can't really do anything, right? It's about the Bears kind of inching towards because of this run game. This run game fuels everything else. So if you have to take on 10 extra yards, you're not going to look as good, right? It's about playing that disciplined football. It's about the hits principle. And today was not a good example of that. We did not, first off, we turned the ball over and it was a pick 6. And we committed a lot of penalties. We didn't play disciplined football. And that, to me, is a big reason why we ended up losing, was because of those penalties. It pulled back an interception, right? Honestly, that first drive, we should have scored a touchdown, but we didn't see, right? But let's go over to my takeaway number 5. And I want to just bring this up. Braxton Jones, according to PFF on the first review, Braxton Jones let up 0 pressures. Yes, there was a couple holding calls, but I want to just kind of give him a little shout out. Braxton Jones continues to look good, continues to play well for a 5th round rookie, and just want to give him that shout out. Now on this line, I want to say a big reason why they didn't look great or perfect was Michael Schofield coming in at right guard. There's a couple little plays where it seemed like him and Reef needed to get used to where everyone was going to be at, because Tevin Jenkins was almost like a surprise inactive for this game. Very surprising to see him not out there, and kind of saw that it took a couple snaps in order for him to understand Mustapher and also Reef to know kind of where he would be at. So it's something that was a little sad to see, because Tevin Jenkins has been looking phenomenal. Hopefully he can be out there next week and continue to play well. But also just want to call this out since we are talking about inactives, another week, Velus Jones lands on the inactive list. And also the first week that we see N'Keal Harry on that inactive list as well. Another player we were hoping to see a little bit more of, but unfortunately not so much. So we are curious, if Pringle gets activated, who's on the short end of the stick? Right now, it's N'Keal Harry and Velus Jones. They are not a part of this offense compared to EQ and Pettis. Now, I think the big interesting part will be what happens as Pringle, as Claypool get more acclimated to this offense. They are the better players. We know that, especially Claypool. Pringle, that's a little up in the air, even though he looked good in Kansas City. Training camp was a different story. Didn't look too great in the preseason either. Pringle's kind of up in the air, but Claypool, hit the books, man. Don't be playing Modern Warfare. You gotta hit the books so that we can see you out there. The bye week, I wish it was a little bit earlier so we could hopefully see Claypool learn this offense a little bit better. Then hopefully he can be out there. So yet again, 19 snaps, not like he's not playing, but you just like to see him up more towards the 30s like EQ St. Brown was at 31. Now, let's go to my last offensive takeaway. Let me know what you all think, because to me, Khalil Herbert is the best running back on this team. Is that incorrect? What do you think? Because to me, it's another week where Khalil Herbert runs like the better running back. The stats say it. Our eyes see it. And we talked about this in the pre-show. We talked about this in the preview where David Montgomery likes to dance in the backfield. And the Lions can tackle, right? They're a disciplined team. They do tackle very well. Khalil Herbert runs. He runs. 10 carries, 57 yards, 5.7 yards average. David Montgomery, 9 carries, 37 yards, 4.1 average. Khalil Herbert to me, is the better running back. David Montgomery can make a million people miss. He can pound it like crazy. But if you aren't getting the yards, what's that worth, right? Khalil Herbert can run that football and runs it very well. That's why, to me, Khalil is the number one guy. He's the number one running back. But what he still does not do, and this is the key thing, that's why I put, for those that have YouTube, you can see it's in all caps, running back. The thing Khalil Herbert does not do well, does not catch it well, does not block well. That's where Monty has the overall edge, I would say, but Herbert definitely has the running edge. And J-Rock agrees, slight edge over Monty, he's saying in the comments. So, yeah, I agree out there. He's the better running back, right? But honestly, we put up 258 yards, 7.4. We've really got this running game going. I would have loved to see a little bit more passing. Like we said, 20 attempts, 12 yards, 167 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. A good game for Fields. Just one boneheaded play, but makes up for it with the long touchdown and unfortunate extra point miss. Ladies and gents, let's flip sides. Let's go over to this defensive side of the ball if we really have to. So if you have a drink, drink it unless you're at work, because we have to go through this Bears defense again. This is where the losses kind of stink a little bit, but yet again, my feeling on this is we can buy a defense. That's my feeling, right? We can buy more talented players out here. So my first takeaway, I previously stated this, so I'm just gonna grab it again. It's technically my seventh takeaway, but I said it first. Sanborn was a beast, right? If you didn't see it, and if you're tuning in live, you can kind of go back at the beginning, and we were drinking the Sanborn Kool-Aid, right? Sanborn looked great, played very, very well. So that was something that I really enjoyed. Now, one thing I do want to say, number 8 takeaway, we stopped the run, right? We stopped the run. They average only 3.1 yards a carry. Jamal Williams averaged 3.7. Jared Goff 3.5. Justin Jackson 3.5. DeAndre Swift 1. and his longest was 9 yards. So that kind of shows you what the Bears were able to do. We were able to stop the run. That was a good game for us Bears fans. I thought that overall it was nice to see, and we played well. And this is a team that can run the football. It's been a little hiccupy because of DeAndre Swift being injured. Maybe he was a little bit more banged up than we were led to believe, but we played well against Jamal Williams. Although we got a touchdown, we still played decent. Now, Laz in the comments says, face it, both teams suck compared to the top teams in the league, but Bears have a chance with Fields. Totally agree. Totally agree. These were 2 bad teams, like you said, Laz. And yeah, this team is not going to win a championship, not going to do great, but it's nice to see that we will have a chance with Fields. We will be able to do something with it, especially out there. So I was excited. Laz also says, not impressed with the second to last drive, 3 and out on runs. Too conservative by Getsy. And I'm glad that you brought this up, Laz, because I did not add this to one of my takeaways. So I'm going to go back to offense real quick. One of the thoughts, and I'll actually switch back my slides. One of my thoughts on that was that where the Bears seemed to be a little bit too conservative towards the end. And I was telling my wife this, where I'm like, they're not going to be including a lot of this, the fun, like the trickery that they do normally, right? Like their offense has a good amount of trickeration, a good amount of like fluffy stuff, right? And then it turns into something a little bit more conservative, like what Laz was pointing out. That's something that, yeah, it felt bad. Like, okay, we're just going to run it because the running game works, right? But it's It's the trickeration. It's the offense. Continue the offense to run big. So that I agree out there, Laz. And also Jack Sanborn, the next stud linebacker in the city. Yes, let's go. Jack Sanborn, the man, the myth, the greatest linebacker of all time. He's looking good, and I love that we get to see more of Sanborn out there. So hopefully he continues to start. But let's go to my ninth takeaway out here. Now, my ninth takeaway is Justin Jones and Trevis Gibson, and then there's everybody else on the defensive line. Like, I don't care who else is out there. It seems like everybody else is just a piece. Now, Dominique Robinson, we continue to see a couple steps forward, but he doesn't seem to be like the true guy out there. I want to see him more than Al-Qadim Muhammad. We know who Al-Qadim is, and we've said this every single post game. It was nice to not see him out there so we could see Dominique Robinson, right? And Trevis Gibson can get past this guy. He just doesn't seem it's hard to say, like, he doesn't seem to be too intellectual out there. It sounds like such a dig at him. I love Trevis Gibson because he can make people miss. He can kind of get in the backfield, but he needs to complete plays. He really needs to just finish plays and complete because he's got all the tools. And that's where I question, is there something with this defensive line coach, right? Like, is there something wrong with the D line coach? Because Trevis Gibson really seems to have kind of not necessarily progressed this year, kind of taken a step back. And Justin Jones, ever since he's gotten that C on his chest, he's not playing amazing, but he's playing a lot better. He's playing well. And then everyone else, we said this before, Armon Watts is good for one good play a game, and then he's done, right? He had one great play in the backfield, and then after that, he was kind of done. That's just what Armon Watts does. One good play, and that's it. So we'll see. This D line, I think next year, if we can just get some of those people out here, this defense is going to look different. Cover 2 is about generating pressure with the front 4. That's something we can't do. Now, my last takeaway, I thought that this was very peculiar. We saw that Jalen Johnson got injured, right? He got banged up. But thought it was interesting that Lamar Jackson came in instead of maybe trying to shift some people around, right? I would have loved to see DHC in the slot rather than Jackson out wide. Because you could say, hey, you know what? We don't have Kindle Vildor, so we don't have our outside corner. We still have Jalen Jones. Put Jones on the outside. And what we should do is then put DHC in the slot and then have Kyler Gordon out wide. But yet again, we don't know what's going on, right? Hey, Bam Bam Sam. Looks like you just joined. And also we have J-Rock saying, D-line definitely needs infusion of talent. Amen. So yeah, I just think that the specialty, the secondary, I really do think that maybe why not put DHC at that slot? Maybe it's because he hasn't gotten reps, right? I'm not at practice. I don't know if he's getting reps. Chances are maybe he doesn't get any reps at slot. I feel he might, but unfortunately he was not lining up in that slot. So that was something that I didn't necessarily love. Because Lamar Jackson just ain't it, right? I'd rather put the vet in to try and get things done. But yeah, but overall, this defense, it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating because Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 targets, 10 receptions. They were able to get 236 passing yards on us. Not amazing, not great, just okay, right? It wasn't a great performance by this defense. And it's going to be a long season for this defense, but as long as this offense continues to tick, continues to make big plays, that's going to be big. But let's see what else the comment says. Bam Bam Sam says we should sign Sue. I think he still is a free agent. There's a handful of free agents that we could at least bring in. But I think the big question is, do the Bears want to try someone else out? And Micah English, do you think the Bears should try Tillery on Monday? I like that. I like Jerry Tillery. He's physical freak, and why not, right? But the thing that I get concerned about goes back to this coaching staff, right? Jerry Tillery is a physical freak, and I don't know if we're actually going to be able to take advantage of him up front. I mean, with Dominique Robinson, we're able to do something, but we should see what we can do. But also, too, there's another comment up here from Laz. look at the passing stats without the Komet big TD, very little happened. Combination of bad protection and I'm assuming bad routes. Getsy's head coaching jobs will stop. Good point. Good point. Yeah, Cole Kmet's long was for 50 yards. So if you take that away, Justin Fields only 117. Now the big piece is then what happens after that, right? Because it looked like if you would have gone long, you would have had that guy kind of doing the little crosser. So probably not 167, but probably still, maybe slightly under 150 is my kind of guess. But yeah, Laz out here too. The hands to the face, Jalen Johnson taking away Sanborn's pick. Agreed. One of the worst calls. It did change the entire game, especially because it was a hand to the neck, hand to the chest, and that's why I think is frustrating. I think it's another like if there's one thing that this game has also shown is that we need Sky Judge. We need the Sky Judge out there just to be like, you know what? Pick that flag up, right? Why not? Why not allow for that? We have technology. We can easily see that. And even that play took a while for them to kind of pick everything up back together. It should have just been like, you know what? That was actually a bad call. Let's remove that, right? That's what they need to do. None of this, another team gets to challenge a penalty like they tried out. Just do a Sky Judge. Somebody just goes, you know what? Yeah, let's send it over to New York. And New York goes, you know what? That Chase Claypool deep ball was actually pass interference. Or today, when Cole Kmet was running and Alex Anzalone did not look whatsoever and just practically tackles Cole Kmet before he could get the ball. Yeah, maybe that should be defensive pass interference and throw it up to the booth, right? That's why we need the Sky Judge. I feel like the AAF and all the tertiary leagues do that, but why not us? Why not the NFL? So just another poor day from that. But let's flip over to the special teams review just to talk a little special teams. We missed an extra point. That cost us the game. We know it. Don't want to talk about it. But still, at least Santos made the field goal. Trenton Gill, 43 yards average, 3 punts, 129. One inside the 21 that should have really kind of been on the 5, but they didn't turn around. Crookshank did not turn around. It was not able to field that. And from a return standpoint, Khalil Herbert, the long of 50, 2 returns, 67 yards, 1 return not so great, 1 return great, right? But I want to flip over to the punts. Dante Pettis, 14.7 yards average, pretty decent, right? It's not flashy, but he gets it done. The only thing I want to throw in there is Jack Fox was also booming them, 46.3 yards, long of 59. So there is something to be said about having a little bit more time and running it back. There is something to be said about Velus Jones would be faster out there. To me, would give us more explosive potential. But the Bears talked about it. The reason why Velus is not out there is because of what is happening on special teams. They didn't even bring up offense because he's a non-factor, right? He's not a wide receiver right now. He's a special teamer that is failing to show what they need on special teams and really needs to get the trust back in this coaching staff. So it's unfortunate, but now with the wide receivers, it's loaded, quote unquote, because EQ and Dante Pettis, arguably the worst wide receivers on the team, are the only wide receivers that really, really, really understand the playbook and know where to be. So because of that and have somewhat chemistry with Justin Fields, we need to hit the books. We need to practice well, and we need to get these better guys out there. So that's something that's just a little frustrating that we want to see. And also another thing that we have out here, the kick out of bounds. Yes, the little slice from Cairo Santos that put it on the 40-yard line. So this is what happens when you're just a bad team, right? Like you lose games like this. If we have Don out there still that's listening in, who's the Lions fan, that's how the Lions always lost because they were just a bad team, right? And I think right now the Bears are just a bad team and they're going to lose games in bad ways. But ladies and gents, we have the 6th pick in the draft. So even though that our Bears are not winning games, we still have the draft to look forward to. So make sure to tune in, subscribe, follow, rate 5 stars, whatever you want to do for this podcast, because we're going to keep you posted with everything. And in the off season, We're going to give you the best draft coverage that's out there. It's my favorite time of the year, so I'm looking forward to that. But still, we are in season mode. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a